Well, good day to you, good night to you, good morning. I'm glad that you pressed play, and it's good to have you on set again with me and I with you, wherever you are. I just want to encourage you, please, nationmind2021 at gmail.com, or put a comment in the chat, in the YouTube. I want to hear from you. I want to know what's happening. Are these broadcasts doing you well? Is it supporting you? Do you have a better idea? What do you want to hear next? So let's have some communication. I would really appreciate that. Today we continue with this loss and grief, and looking to see a bit more of how we are redefining our lives, not having what we thought we should have had for longer than we had it. And I want us to remember that as we talked last week about language, building in that support system, looking at the language, not just you have what you want to say, but what others are saying to you, and how you relate one with the other in terms of establishing the kind of the support that you need from your friends and family. Sometimes, as we talked about that, they could be very, very discouraging because people do not know what to say. So I hope that broadcast helped you. We want to go on a little further in terms of looking at emotion, and because in terms of language and relating with people, they are relating to basically your emotion more than what you think. Or it's not what you say, but how you behave. And we need to look at that a bit about how to pull out the positive emotions within your own life, how to settle that, how to make that brain think and that body behave positively. So we want to realize that with a crisis, there's the issues of intense stress and hijacking and irrational behaviors or responses, and sometimes no response at all, numb or silence. And all these things are real, but so that we want to look at that and see how best we can identify what is expected of us and what is expected of ourselves. Some of us may say, I don't want to do anything, leave me alone. But we live in a world, and the 24 hours that we work with continues to change into 0 to about 24 hours. That means another day. And we do have lives that before the crisis or the trauma, we had plans. And we have to realize that this loss just cannot come and take away our plans, because I don't think we had planned that if we had a loss, we would lose the plan. Because most times we do not plan with a loss in mind. We plan with perpetuity or eternality. When we talk about death, a person who dies at 90, 100, we still wonder if they should have maybe lived longer than. We always have a more than concept as to where we are going and what we want to achieve. So we're looking at the kind of emotion that comes up immediately when you hear the news, whether it's by telephone or by mouth or by sight. You have read it. There's a shift in the amygdala, and the other organs, the glands, hypothalamus and the thalamus, all those things shift, and there's the fight and flight, and with a spin, and of course the hormones are affected, and some people get diarrhea and heartaches, and some people get a heart attack. So that we have really a lot to look at when people hear news that are contrary to their plan or they're contrary to the expectation of their life. And we have to see how we can temper that and help them to resume proper responses. So it's important for us to see how can we establish something more than just response. How do we look at the emotion and work the response to make sure that the response identifies with emotion? Or if you wish, if you're brave enough to try and get a response without emotion, this is how I have to behave. And then if you do that, somebody will say, hey, you're not real. You're hiding things. But it is not that we hide. We can work with either of the two methods. We can decide that I am behaving this way outside of how I feel, or I can work how I feel and help me to have a better response, or rather what I call my response. But so sometimes it may be important for you to really interpret how you express. What am I expressing in terms of this loss? Because I have so many people around me. I can fall down, I can scream, I can bawl, I can throw things, I could cuss, I could decide not to talk to you. But I do have a continuum of responsibilities. I still have my job, my children, my team that I play with in terms of sports. I have lots of interpretations to do. I could go to, the list is there. You could find the list. I may have plans to travel. So how do I behave? And those are important things in terms of how we want to look firstly at courage. We must have the courage to be able to face the issue with the anxiety that we have. We are in an anxious space. This is too much. I can't take it. Wow. But I have to find a courage to face the crisis. How am I going to see a dead person? How am I going to see a burned down house? How am I going to face a lost job? That will be for the next morning when I get up. I know I'm not going to that job. How do I face the fact that the next day I'm alone in the house, I'm divorced, or my partner has left? The children get up, they're more crisis because so we need to build courage. We need to help people to see, yes, how do I attempt to go forward and further with this loss that is very real, not in the experience only, but in my eyesight. There's a void, there's an emptiness. That person is no longer here, or that thing is no longer here. How do I work that? How do I find an emotion or compassion? How do I find a feeling to want to temper this negativity, or want to temper my rage or my anger? Because most times you're angry. Why this happened? Why didn't how this could happen to me? But we still have to learn that we can't communicate, and we can't find a language that creates that kind of temperance unless we can bring our emotions to a place where we can handle that. How can I be optimistic? Is this possible? Is this real? How can I be confident in possibilities? How can I be confident in my possibility of being real? How do I look? How does my face look? I wonder. No. I can't handle this. Forget it. Confidence? No. I don't even know how I behave. You see me right now? If anybody tell me, we could have all this kind of... But there's a need for us to interpret what is expected of us in words of maturity, adulthood, friendliness, sobriety. Right now, hold on. You see that words? Them words good for all them. You see right now, I hurting. See right now, my man leave me, my woman leave me. You see right now, my parents are dead. You see right now, you recognize that I just lost. But do I have that expectation to find some equilibrium? Or am I just want to react to define the emotion? To see where the emotion stands? To psych me out? And then people start coming and ask me silly questions. Right now, hold on. No, I don't want to silly questions. I don't want to hear anybody. Yes, that is real. Those things are real. But it's all now going to be a futuristic concept. I have to find a leverage of confidence, assurance in the possibilities that are going to be coming after me. for me. I have to find confidence or possibilities for me, awareness. I have to learn how to be me. What's that now? Yes, I can cry and bawl and people say, but is that really how I want to continue living? So it's important for me to begin to redefine my thought patterns in terms of looking at where I'm going. Now, today I was asking a friend, actually, this is before the broadcast. She just had a loss. Why are you crying? Or what made you bawl? She didn't have an answer. But I was telling her that most times when people have these kind of reactions, they're trying to balance the past with the future. They're trying to see how what was, what is not, and what is going to be. Because how am I going to be what is going to be without the is? And when I find myself looking at that, I can begin to cry, to weep. And even when I look past and I say how this could be avoided, or I try to find justification of the why, I can also therefore put myself in an is that is not real. And I look at how I am putting experiences from the past into the present, and I am noting that there is not going to be anything bright about that. I'm not going to find anything that is going to help me to smile. What I have to do is to try and work out how I can find a resolve, how I can reflect on emotions that I had with the person. Or I enjoyed my friend, my parent, I enjoyed the house. Even with a divorce, there must have been some good times. Could I find some positivity there that initiates a more positive response than a negative? And am I ready to face hard questions? Am I? Am I ready to say, yes, this is it, this is how it is, this is how it was, this is how it's going to be? Not yet. I don't think I'm ready. But I'm now trying to process what has happened. But so that what has happened brings me into that place where I am looking for the compassion to deal with my future through the present, and to see how I can find means of resolving my emotions for now. I need to take a deep breath, yes. Maybe 2-3 deep breaths. Then I need to say, okay, what really happened? Because sometimes we have news or we get information that are not right, and therefore we react to what we heard. So there comes a time where you have to sit down and say, okay, this has happened. What really happened? Could somebody tell me exactly how the car got stolen, how the house got burned down, when, about the death, what were the situations prior to death? I need to get clarity. I think that's an important part of resolve. How I am able to use information to help me with that shock, or to help me with that feeling of despair, of distress. If I could only get a little more information. Now, some people say the information, what do we do with it? It's not about the information taking me forward. It's about how the information helps me in my present space to establish control. How do I work that? And it's important for me not to want to rush this. Is that making sense to you? Try to get from negative to positive through looking from the past and wondering, okay, if this was so, I like this. about reflecting from the past and seeing the good times or the times of challenge where we overcome, and I was able to be more stable. So there are things behind there that are able to carry us forward. Are we willing for that? Are we able to handle that? Do you want to remember? Let me say you have to. Because we are looking to see how we are identifying change. How do we identify real-time change? How are we identifying change that is for future, by the way? Change we do not like, change we do not want, change we can't seem to conceptualize, but it's change nevertheless. How am I going to be able to sit back and realize that loss equates to change? I pause. Because if I don't have, I can't use, I can't relate. So therefore I have to find another means. And that's what we talk about here. How do we work out these responses in a more positive concept and context to make what my life ought to be workable with the difference? So I start off with voice. I don't have that voice in my head anymore. When I hear a voice now, is that person, what, are they talking to me? Are they supposed to give me instruction? I don't have the instructions that I used to have before. It's a whole different ball game. I don't have the directives anymore. And if that person was cooking, my taste buds are going to be challenged. Who's going to tell me how I look? Who's going to, where am I going? That house is no longer there. I have to find new space, new furniture. So that I have to keep in front of me that concept of change in terms of loss. So in my grieving, actually my grieving has to do with my changing. The losing of what I had to come into that place what I am now going to have. Is it real? Is it what we are looking for? Or we didn't plan it, by the way. But I have to look forward to something. I have to look forward to what's happening here. And the whole concept of how I am going to look towards this in terms of finding resolution for myself is basically important. How do I work this? So I can find somebody to talk to. I could begin to read. I could begin to do art, or I can find things that can fill certain measures of void and to express my whole understanding or interpreting of the loss or the emotions that I have. Yes, I did cite several art forms: art, reading, music, sports. Doing something not just to preempt time, but to cause me to identify with people and to keep my cognition, keep my brain matter alive. If I don't do this, I find myself squeezed into a room, squeezed into depression, squeezed into anger, still trying to work out my salvation. How am I going to be safe from this thing? So it's important for me to do things that are creating emotions and identifying with people. So I'm reconstructing voice, I'm reconstructing language, I'm reconstructing space, and I'm learning how to work my emotion in terms of that space and to see how best it works for me. So I am not going to just pull away and be crowded and to be contained in the silence or that erratic, irrational behavior. But I'm going to allow myself to be defining who I am and the newness of my am, or the newness of my being, what I am being now as against what I was. You know, some of us want change. We do not know how it comes. But I can tell you, loss helps in any way. Even sickness, the things you cannot do anymore. That's why you have to change diet and lose the taste for meat, or to lose the taste for a good barbecue, because I cannot eat that anymore because of my illness. Some people have to travel because they've changed their residences. They now have to maybe travel 2 hours more because they've had to move house. These things are real. So we have to find measures of how we are reconnecting and re-establishing where we're going, how we're going forward in order to work well. So I'm going to pause here. And in the next podcast, we will continue and take you into a bigger space in terms of understanding how I am going to work out my change and work out what's happening to me in terms of going forward. But one of the things I better say here, there are going to be times, yes, when I'm going to want to blurt out and just break down maybe. Some people say share a meltdown, hear a meltdown. It's not so much about meltdown, it's called catharsis. You just start, something triggers you, and you just decide that, you see me, let me express myself. So I just get wild. I vent. Okay, so after you vent, what? So sometimes venting is important to bring that release so that I can go back and fish or do the art, because I come up to a stumbling block, and I think that's important, yes. When we are doing these things, we could come to a trigger could cause, say, you see, oh my gosh, if she was here, oh my gosh, if I was there, you know? And I want to ball. Throw something, don't break it too much, but so let's see how best we can re-identify those emotions. I'll come back to catharsis a bit in the next podcast, but I thought it's important for you not to feel that I am trying to create a euphoria of balance and where you contain. No, the reality is that there are going to be times of breakdown, and you're going to really need to see how to re-establish where you're going forward. So for me, I'm signing off here. Let's keep this in mind. Look forward to the next broadcast, and we are going to continue talking about loss and grief, helping you to find resilience so that you can find true coping mechanisms and great possibilities ahead of your future. Thank you. Dr. Nye says, have a good week.